that up. We're here talking more about the Morton Grove ordinance on banning handguns. And with me in the studio is State Representative Roman Kosinski from the 16th Legislative District of Illinois and Mr. James Valentino, Jr. He's a Chicago attorney who is on the Board of Directors for the National Rifle Association. Welcome to Metroview, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Valentino, we're told that you're very active in lobbying with this, aren't you?
Well, I'm on the Legislative Policy Committee and the Legal Action Committee of the National Rifle Association. And for the past 10 or 11 years, I've been the chairman of the Legislative Committee, and I'm a past president of the Illinois State Rifle Association. So I've been active on it on the state level as well as the national.
Okay, Representative Kosinski, we've been told that you are a leader of the Judiciary II Committee of the Illinois Legislature, which focuses on criminal law. Is there a firearms issue in Cook County the same as the rest of Illinois?
Well, Illinois develops its own independent issues. One of the issues that you may have noticed there is, to my knowledge, in the history of Illinois, there's been no ban on a handgun other than the legislation I passed, which banned the manufacture and the sale of the Saturday Night Special in Illinois. It was a cheap gun that the youth gangs could obtain very easily. To my knowledge, that was the only ban of a gun ever in Illinois.
And the interesting thing about that is that that ban affected the manufacturer and dealer level. The Morton Grove ordinance that we were discussing is important in that it is the first time that any organization or community has banned the possession of any firearm in your own private home.
Okay, what would the effect be then of this isolation in this one little community?
Well,
of
actually,
I
can't see an overall effect. You see, as long as there are contiguous areas from which firearms are obtainable, and Illinois gets about 53% from out of state, nothing is going to really achieve an end that we desire. And the end I desire, incidentally, is to keep all guns out of the hands of the irresponsible, the mentally impaired, and the criminal people in our society. I'm not concerned about you or your dad or the nice people around me. I'm concerned about those criminals. In Chicago alone, I think there are 800,000 registered firearms. They don't concern me. But the 1,600,000 unregistered firearms concern me, because the bulk of crime, of gun crime, occurs in those areas that have those unregistered guns, not in the decent homes of doctors, lawyers, jewelers, etc. Do you follow?
Okay.
So I'm worried about the bad guys in our society. It appears to me that most legislation that comes forth is aimed at the good guys, because they adhere to laws. They go along.
The Morton Grove ordinance, and as many local ordinances, as I'm assuming that maybe other municipalities may take similar action.
A trend is sure to follow.
Will create a very chaotic situation for the law-abiding competitive pistol shooter. In other words, here you have a situation where it affects not only the resident of Morton Grove, but a competitor who may be on a state or federal highway driving through. A person from the south part of Chicago may be going to a pistol match in Waukegan, gets stopped in Morton Grove, he may be arrested for illegal possession of a handgun. Certainly it creates a chaotic situation if you have a checkerboard situation or a hodgepodge. If a person is going to go to a pistol competition, or if a person is lawfully purchased a firearm and wishes to bring it home, he now has to look at his roadmap and try and find ways to go around a community that has passed such a law. It is not a good thing to regulate on a local level.
Outside of the traveler, I'm a jeweler by profession. I've had 2 shootings where I came out on top. Please don't take my gun away from me. As long as those people on the street have guns, I have no way of protecting myself and my property.
Is there any way to have a unified law about
Only on a
this?
federal level. And then how successful it'll be is questionable, because we have states like Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, etc., 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 who don't have the problems of large urban areas. So you can't get the congressional vote from them. Do you see? And also our federal government spends millions on marijuana, etc., without any great effect, and on heroin and other narcotics. We can't even find illegal aliens in this country. So
the
possibility, let me just finish this, the possibility of control exists with the people. If we can change the facets of our living together, come back to the simple things of life, respecting each other and ourselves, maybe someday we'll have a control of the type we'd like. At this point in time, just little spotty controls all over the country, in addition to the 3,000 laws we have about guns, I don't think it's going to achieve a great deal.
You wanted to comment?
No, we'll let it pass. Go on to the next.
Okay. Is there such a good thing as an overall good policy for Illinois? What would you like to see happen?
Well, House Bill 748, which I have in the hopper right now, will strengthen the Firearm Owners Identification Act. Presently, the Act says, and I worked on it for 5 years to get into this position, where if a man has a conviction for a felony within 5 years, or has been institutionalized mentally within 5 years, he cannot obtain a firearm permit. We're going beyond that. We're going to the local entities. We say if this bill passes, that a person will have to go into his local sheriff, his local chief of police, the state police of that community, and get an okay on him as an individual before that application is forwarded to the state for permission to buy a firearm. We think that will strengthen it in all the small municipalities in a fashion that they want. We're hopeful the bill will pass.
Our membership will oppose the bill. And the reason our membership will oppose the bill, quite frankly, is the conduct of the Chicago Police Department. The Chicago Police Department has been working very diligently to build up a contempt by the public, particularly as it affected gun regulations. There is a Chicago ordinance today that requires that before a person can legally purchase a handgun in the city of Chicago, he must obtain a permit from the Chicago Police Department. The police department has contemptuously refused permits to individuals who apply unless they happen to be law enforcement officers.
Well, Representative Kosinski seems to feel that our concern should be those who are going to break the law.
And our concern is that the police will be the ones that will break the law, as they have done in the past in the city of Chicago. The law would be, the 748, the House bill would be a good law if the police departments obeyed the spirit of the law and the form of the law and forwarded the applications to the state so that the people could get their ID cards and their permits to purchase firearms and ammunition. The fear of the Illinois State Rifle Association and the majority of the people in Chicago is that the Chicago police, just like they have acted on the ordinance requiring police permits, will refuse to obey the law, will refuse to process the application for the firearm owner's ID cards.
And our hope is that there will be mandates within House Bill 748, the bill of which I spoke a moment ago, and with any spirit of cooperation from local municipalities who wish to control, who seriously wish to control. I will have no problem with my friend Superintendent Brezik. That's my personal feeling of the matter.
And let me clarify one thing. We are talking about a series of laws and the nature of laws when you're talking about gun regulation as such, the regulations aimed at the firearm or the firearm owner. We are talking about regulations that are aimed at the law-abiding firearm owner. Certainly the criminals do not have to get an ID card to obtain their firearms. Indeed, most of them do not. And under a 1967 Supreme Court case, it's the United States Supreme Court case, Haynes versus the People, the Supreme Court said that people such as ex-convicts, narcotics addicts, insane people, alcoholics, are exempt from punishment under gun registration laws or owner's registration laws because these people are prohibited from owning firearms under federal law.
They may be prohibited from owning them, but that doesn't stop them from using them.
The problem is that you cannot punish them for failure to register or for failure to list themselves as firearm owners because they're protected by the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, because to require them to register would require them to give evidence against themselves.
Mr. Valentino, will the National Rifle Association appeal the Morton Grove Ordinance?
I believe the National Rifle Association has made a decision to appeal the Morton Grove Ordinance. I am not speaking at this point for the National Rifle Association on that issue because I know that is one that is being determined by their Institute for Legislative Action in Washington. I think far more important than an appeal on the national level is the activity of the local courts and of our state Supreme Court on the Morton Grove issue, because the Morton Grove issue involves an interpretation of the Illinois Constitution. The Illinois Supreme Court is a superior court in its ruling to that of the United States Supreme Court. If the Illinois Supreme Court should decide that the ordinance is unconstitutional under Illinois law, there is nothing that the federal Supreme Court will do that will change that.
Do you agree with that?
That's highly technical. This man is an attorney, so let's presume he knows what he's talking about. I want to tell you something as an aside. As Jim indicated that they will probably not support House Bill 748, which I described, they were very supportive of me when I banned the sale and manufacture of the Saturday Night Special, because they don't want bad guns on the street. They have a great concern about sawed-off shotguns. You know, a concealable weapon can be made out of a rifle or a sawed-off shotgun, or a shotgun itself with a hacksaw. You don't need a pistol necessarily, and it's a much more devastating weapon.
Do all the members of the NRA agree with that?
Let's clarify this, because here I'm wearing several hats, and when he refers to me as they, he's referring...
Them guys.
Okay, he's referring to the Illinois State Rifle Association. The Illinois State Rifle Association supported not only the ban on the cheaply made firearms, but also the firearm owner's ID card system that's law in Illinois today. The National Rifle Association, however, did not and does not support these measures. They feel, the National Rifle Association feels, that a ban on the cheaply made guns affects the lower income people mostly.
So we can maintain guns for recreational purposes, collector's items. This is what you're suggesting?
Or defense purposes.
Or defense purposes.
You know, there's a psychology to gun ownership. The people in Cook County who own guns may never use them, the legitimate people. They're in a dresser drawer close to their bed. But the fact that they have some means to protect themselves against a home invasion, which occurs constantly, gives them some moral support in terms of protection of their castle, their home.
So our bottom line is safety?
A survey by Decision Makers Information in 1978 showed that 13 million people in the United States successfully defended their homes and their property with firearms.
Let's just try and get along together without the need. We appreciate your being with us. We'll see you next week. And thank you, gentlemen.